Okay, so the question of the day. Is it possible to freeze dry sourdough or natural yeast start for long-term storage? That's what we're going to find out today. One of our viewers asked if we could freeze dry some sourdough start, and quite frankly, I didn't know whether or not it would be possible. And I did a little bit of research and it might be possible. So what I've done, this is some sourdough start that you can tell it's just beautiful and bubbly and active. I took it out of the fridge a couple days ago. I freshened it and put it on the counter, and then I freshened it again because if I'm going to freeze dry it, I want to make sure that it has the best possible start. I lined this with parchment paper just because they've been out of the silicone mats, so I haven't been able to get one of those yet. And I'm just gonna spread this nice and thinly. Well, it's not overly thin, I guess, but nice evenly. It's a really good, healthy start, and you can just see the bubbles in it. And then we will freeze dry this in our next batch and see how well it turns out. When I talk about freshening the starter, you take a cup of flour and a cup of water and put it in with the start. It's called feeding it, and it makes it be nice and bubbly and active so that it will work better. So that's why we want to start with a really fresh start. So it looks like it's nice and dry. Still smells just a little bit sour. But so with sourdough, the best way that we can tell whether or not it survived this process is actually just to break it up in some warm, non-chlorinated water, and we'll see if it will start to double, right? Because that's how you can tell if sourdough starts still nice and active, is if it gets all these wonderful little bubbles in it and it's happy. Okay, so the start looks right now pretty good. It's all nice and bubbly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it, and we always want to feed it with the same amount of water, non-chlorinated water, and flour for just the right consistency. I like to mix my water into the start first so that I make sure that the start mixes in with everything really well. And then I'll mix my flour in. And this container might be a little bit small, because if this works and it doubles, all right, see how we have a really nice, thick kind of start? That's what I like to have. Right now, we are a little bit over a cup in this container. So we're gonna watch, and hopefully it won't go all the way over the top before I catch it, but that's the true indicator of whether or not our start is still alive. This is the sourdough or the natural yeast start at 9 o'clock in the morning the day after. So I've got some activity in here. I've got a little film on the top. Definitely has not doubled. It's grown just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take half of it out and discard it, and I'm going to freshen it with new flour and water, and we'll see if it turns out to be happy today. We've removed about half of the start, so we've got 3/4 of a cup of start left, and we've got some decent bubbles in there. So now we're going to add water. This is non-chlorinated warm water. It's not too hot, and we just stir it in really well. I always like to add the water before I add the flour because I think that it mixes better. And I really want this to have a lot of body, so I've put a half of a cup of the warm water and a half a cup of flour. This is the start freshly fed, it's about 1.33 cups. So if this works, it should double and bubble pretty much over the top. I'm going to cover it loosely with a little piece of plastic wrap and put it in a warm place, and we'll see what happens. This is day 3 for the sourdough start that we freeze dried. So the first day I had some freeze dried start that I mixed with non-chlorinated warm water, and I put some flour in it to freshen it. And we experienced no growth. So on the second day, I took out half of it and I refreshed it again with more flour and non-chlorinated water, and we didn't have any good growth. So this is its last chance. Today is day 3. It is freshened and it is right here at the 1 cup line. We're going to compare it to this fresh start, and it's right here at the 2 cup line. I just took some of the start and I freshened it with the warm water and the flour. And so this will be a good comparison, because if this one grows, that means that the start was good and that something happened in the freeze drying process to kill it. Okay, so the question has been answered. Can you freeze dry sourdough or natural yeast? Well, it freeze dries really well. The problem is it's just dead. There is very slight activity in here. I think you would actually have better luck making a fresh start, because this is day 3 and it's just, there's really no growth, no anything happy. And just to test my original start, I went ahead and we refreshed this morning, and this is bubbly and happy. And while it hasn't doubled, it's only been like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. This has already made significant progress, and you can tell it's really nice and healthy. So when we compare the two, there is just no comparison. My freeze dry sourdough start died. It is not okay. So I won't be freeze drying sourdough anymore, but it was a great experiment, and I think we shouldn't be afraid to experiment. So what experiments have you done in your freeze dryer that have failed? Comment below, and thanks for being part of the solution.